The technical service plan has been developed by BC Soccer over the past couple of years. We have engaged members of the Soccer Development Committee and leveraged their expertise, as well as surveying the membership to identify areas of technical support that member organizations and their affiliated clubs need for the development of players, coaches, and referees.
All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the technical workshop. How's everyone doing? Okay, let's try that again. This is the last workshop of the day. We're going to talk about soccer. How's everybody doing? That's much better. For those of you who I don't know, or those who are watching on camera, my name is Rob Chabai. I'm the Interim Soccer Development Director at BC Soccer, and I'm very proud of that as well. Just want to welcome everybody to this workshop. And we got a lot of content to go through. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. I guarantee it will make it fun and interactive. So a couple of things we're going to take a look at in this workshop outline is actually focus on technical and look at some technical reflections. I'll be honest, when I was developing the presentation and taking a look at who's coming on the list, I saw there's great diversity in what our roles are, whether we're in technical or we're administrators or be that in whatever leadership position. I felt it quite challenging to come up with one type of technical reflection that one size fits all, but hopefully I've been able to find one. And I think it's something that can help us in all of our roles, and I think that's the art of feedback. And it's something that I think would be interesting for you, and definitely something interesting and needed for me as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that on a reflection as we engage in the presentation. We're definitely going to give some updates. The last thing I wanted is to have a boring update presentation about what we do, because the website is quite clear about what we do. I'd rather share with you some of the initiatives, some of the partnerships that we've done that can help clubs and organizations deliver football, because you deliver football in the community. We also want to learn and hear about your best practices, and hopefully you can learn and hear about our best practices, and I think that's really important in our community here in BC. And lastly, I want to end on a knowledge exchange. It's a networking opportunity to really understand what best practices are, that we can share these learnings, we can learn from one another, and I think it'll be a really good opportunity to do that with our staff and amongst one another as well. So I think to respect your time and to really get through all the content, I hope you can work with me that we maybe keep questions to the very end for the knowledge exchange. We have some pads and paper. If you'd like to write down some questions, the staff and myself will be more than happy to answer those questions at the end, so we just keep rolling. Do I get a thumbs up for that? Sounds like a plan. I want to take this opportunity regarding the knowledge exchange, which I'll share this slide at the very end. I want to introduce my fantastic staff. We've divided them up into 3 areas: coach and referee development, club development, and player development. Our staff are experts at the portfolios that they do deliver. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. Connor and Hagen have come prepared with presentations at their tables at the back for the knowledge exchange regarding course admin, club hosting, and so forth. So if you have questions about that and you're not quite sure, or maybe your processes aren't as efficient as possible, this is a great opportunity to do that. In the club development world, if you don't know some of the benefits that we do offer, such as grants program, you never heard of that or how you can take advantage of it, that's a really good place to ask some questions. And then lastly, if you're intrigued about the ins and outs about player ID and how we communicate progress reports and some of our learnings, that's a great place to go. But I tell you what, please come with your ideas, because we're more than happy to listen about what are the innovations that you're doing in your organizations so we can get better as well. So those are some of the topics, but not limited to any of the questions that you may have that might be nuanced in your area that maybe I haven't covered here. So we're here for your support, and I guarantee that we're going to make some notes as well in our conversations. Does that sound like a plan? Good. So learning outcomes for this workshop is going to be that we're going to consider some soccer development ideas. What are some of your ideas? What are some of the ideas that have come out of the AGM so far in the new strategic plan? We'll consider some of those options. We'll also be able to share our best practices. I think that's a really important part of networking and sharing our learnings with one another. And obviously, as I mentioned, we have the opportunity to discuss any specific interest ideas with one another, and specifically with the staff. So I want to take this opportunity to, if you don't mind taking your phones, and just have a little interactive exchange here by just typing in menti.com, and when I ask you for the code, just go ahead and add, use that code over there on the right-hand side. Yeah, no texting others. Just make sure you type in menti.com. That's fine. This won't take too long. Did you get in okay? 1594 0826. Awesome. Okay, so hopefully if this is being live streamed and people at home are happening to watch, please feel free to check in as well. But the first voting will come up here, and you can just enter what region you are from BC so we know where you're coming from. Do you remember the code I said? Oh, okay. The code's right up there. 1594 94 0826. You guys doing this too? Oh, there we go. The bar is starting to move. We're able to get in okay? All right, who here is from Vancouver Island? There we go. Well, I know you're from the Vancouver Island, so that's great. And yeah, I just want to welcome you. I know it's not always easy trek to come across the waters, but appreciate that. And we have a couple people from northern BC. Good, welcome. Mark and Jen, well done. And Thompson, Okanagan. We got a couple people from here, and somebody didn't use their phone. Wonderful. All right, and nobody here from Kootenays, I believe. No problem. And a ton of people from the Lower Mainland. Just want to welcome everybody, and thank you for making the trip for the AGM, of course, and also taking the time for this workshop. right, so you should have a second question that might pop up here. And this one's going to ask you a pretty specific question to reflect on your own organization and sort of gauge how strongly you agree or not with the following statements. That you feel it's necessary to govern the game well regarding processes, develop the game regarding standards, and how important is that to you to grow the game, meaning when you deliver your programs, how accessible they are. Good. We've had a couple more, and we probably hit the limit over there because there's only as strongly as you can agree. And when we take a look at that, we just rolled out the strategic plan, and we're taking a look at what development means, and particularly in soccer development, providing opportunities for all participants in player, coach, referee, and governing, trying to modernize the governance structure and help participants participate in the game, and that's how we can grow the game in order to make it enjoyable for everybody. So then let me ask you a last question here about what do you think, just in a one-word answer, what's your vision of soccer development in BC? You could probably type in 3 answers there. I think that's what it allows you. To sort of give us an idea of what your vision of soccer development might be. Good. Wonderful. So if I showed you some of what our shared vision is building a better future through soccer and some of the values that you have shared here on the earlier screen, you can see they're quite congruent with what we had. I think that's what's really important here is about how do we pull in the same direction in football. We don't always agree about everything, but are there some common values that we have that we can share? There's been a statement that's been said by many people, many leaders, and I'll just state it today. When I look in this room, and those who aren't in this room as well, but are leaders in the game, if it's not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Particularly with the rollout with the last strategic plan. If we cannot row that boat together in the same direction, then there's going to be a problem. But I must say, we don't always agree, as I mentioned, and that's fair. So I want to share a little activity that we can have some fun with to sort of maybe better understand that. There was a craze that came out a few years ago. You've probably seen this illusion that, what color is the dress? And I know what color it is. I don't know if you know what color it is, Ralph, but I know I'm pretty right about what I think it is. But you probably see it in one way. And what I'd like you to do is just do this last vote for me on your phone and tell me if it's black or blue or white or gold. Anybody else need some more time on this one? Or are you still thinking? All right, so we almost have a 60-40 split there. What I'd like to ask is those who saw it in white and gold, would you mind standing up? Just go in behind the table with the pennies there. Just sort of spread yourselves out. You think you're right, right? 100%. So, okay, so now what I'd like to do is sort of hone in on this technical reflection on the art of feedback. So here's a task. Everybody else, What I want you to do is pair up with someone that maybe you don't know over there. So you can just spread out over there. And you'll probably go in twos because we have more blues and blacks than whites and golds. But go visit someone you don't know, introduce yourself, and then here's your task. Convince one another why you're right. And I'll give you a couple of minutes to get that one right, staff included. I'm white and black.
Oh,
White and gold.
okay, we're convincing you.
Honestly,
You're convincing me. Okay, go ahead.
we don't
Try.
know you, and we will convince you.
Okay.
I think you're
Why do
crazy.
you think? Yeah, I think.
Just think you're crazy.
No, it's white.
It's totally black and
How do you see that white?
100%. How can you? I cannot see it. Like I don't see it.
Anything close to white and gold?
There is nothing white in
There's
that.
nothing black in it at all.
Are you serious?
How is that even possible? Honestly, yeah, I don't understand.
Me
I
too.
really don't.
Okay, I can't understand because I see nothing. I see a little bit of like light shade of blue. I get that on the white, but it's white.
It means you go to details more than the whole thing.
Unbelievable. It's black and blue. There is nothing white in that freaking picture. Nothing.
No,
Not
there is a little thing just
Well, yeah, the
at the
below,
side.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with like black and blue, we saw it differently. So they saw it like blue and then just straps like black, but I saw it like black and straps are blue. We saw it like white and
Okay, we'll wrap up in 15 seconds. This is getting crazy. All right, everyone, let's have a seat. I don't want anybody to get hurt here. That was interesting. I heard a couple of good conversations. Somebody came at me as well. They were totally right. So let's ask a couple of questions. How did that actually go for you? Anybody? And how successful were you? To convince, that's the task. 50-50. So what do you mean by that? Well, what does that mean to you, like how successful you were?
Well, we both agreed that how we envisioned the image from our perspective might have influenced why we saw the colors that we did.
Okay, so you didn't win. That's why I said 50-50. All right. Did anybody win? Did anybody, I convinced them. Yes, Luca. So just push through. Okay, so who did you gang up on there? Okay, no, so let's hear the other angle. Go ahead, Emma. I'll give you a chance.
Luca worked really hard to convince himself that it was white and gold, but everybody else agreed with him.
Okay, Haugen, what input did you have into the conversation? I mean, did you like double team Emma on this one? So, give me some of the skills you used to do that, because this is super interesting.
Made ourselves look really big,
Yeah?
and then like just hammer on. Like we didn't even let them speak.
Okay. All right. I think you know where I'm going with this, right? Is we're putting this context in our club development, day-to-day, daily training environment, and our football ecosystem. Is there any other example? Did somebody just totally give up and say, this is really dumb activity, I'm not even bothered doing it, I'm going to have another conversation?
I didn't give up, but I just felt like this is something, one of those situations where both of the sides had no arguments, like outside of what we see. So like there's no argument, like no logical explanation outside of forming the information that we have. Unless someone knew exactly what the dress was.
So in,
It's just like there's no way for me to convince Fraser that it's not white and gold because he
Let me ask you, how quickly did you shut down and realize that you couldn't go forward with it? Right away. Okay. No, these are just observations.
We wouldn't be able to convince each other because that's the way we saw things differently. So we're just agreeing to, like Rob said, like, understand that this is what it is. Like in this situation, we're just gonna see things differently, and we're just gonna have to agree with that.
Okay, I have two more. We'll go to Mark and then Kieran. What were your observations?
So Lucas said that there was no logic to this, but Kieran admitted that he had a lot of head injuries.
Yes.
Couldn't be wrong. So I won. John and I won.
Yes.
So Kieran, you're up, buddy.
What's your counter argument to that, Kieran?
Like we're defining things in terms of right and wrong, and not to be silly, but black and white. I was forced into a choice.
Black and blue, actually. Yes.
And white and gold. I didn't believe it was either of those. I had to choose one, and now I'm having to defend why I chose that.
Interesting. So always in the analogies that we're using in these exercises, we've got to put it into context. So this is what I've observed here. We've had laissez-faire approach. We've had transformational, like, hey man, I really feel for you. You know, you've had way too many concussions, but I think I'm a winner here. We've had transactional type of communication and feedback to one another, and then potential toxic. No, but do you see? Yes. Oh, we'll get to that in a moment because I have the right answer, actually, and I will convince you all, and I will win. But do you see how we went through that spectrum simply on the observations and how we conducted one another? Let me ask you a couple of other questions. Just reflect on yourself, because I also engaged in this conversation. How much of the time were you speaking? So let me go to Luca and Hagen's group. And, you know, we're having some jokes and we're having some fun on this one. But how much of the time did you speak in relation to Emad? Honestly. 90%. 90%. And I tell you, this is how feedback is given most often to our players, to our referees, and particularly when performance is not bad. Emad, it seemed like it wasn't a very positive, it was fun, but not a very positive situation. What did you notice about their language and their approach and their tone? So it could be like a bad cop, good cop, bad cop. And we could... Bad cop, bad cop. Yeah, I get it. But can you put yourselves in the shoes and maybe situations that you've seen in your clubs that this sort of could happen? It could happen in the boardroom. It could happen in the office. It could happen on the field. So as I mentioned, let's throw this into a little bit of context. So what happens when we see one of our coaches potentially totally abusing a referee on the sideline, potentially pulling a kid over on the sideline, not happy with the performance, and just giving it the old negative feedback? What do you think is going to happen to that referee or that player receiving this type of feedback is my first question. Shut down. What's the cumulative process in that when it continues to shut down after this type of feedback? I don't want to be part of this anymore. I'm gone. Complaints. The culture gets ruined. But here's the second question I have for you. What would you do, or what would you expect your club officials to do when you see something like that happen? And this example is just a coach not giving appropriate feedback to somebody. What would you do? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but just think about it. What would you do? Would you use a laissez-faire attitude, or would you expect your staff to say, that's not my problem? Would you think it's acceptable to say, have a transactional conversation with that coach? Don't do that again, I won't bother you, and to leave? Will you engage and put the effort into a transformational conversation and pull Luca aside and say, hey, can we talk about this? Or is it just going to be toxic? And I think it's very important to self-reflect if we are acting in that way? Do we have staff that approaches the game that way? Because this, ultimately, if this is not done correctly or close to correctly, would you agree that it would be toxic at the end of the day and not positive? So let's talk about what is the purpose of feedback then. What would you say is the purpose of feedback? Yes. To be instructive? To be constructive. Okay. Would you say feedback is always meant to be constructive, meaning corrective? Okay. Okay, so basically it's always, I know something more than somebody else and I gotta let you know. That's sort of what it's coming out like. Okay, so we have constructive, we have corrective, and we have instructive. Great. What else is the purpose of feedback? Reinforcement. Okay. Okay, so it's not always just on the negative, it could be on the positive, so reinforcement in all areas. Yes, Connor? Okay, wonderful. So the way I want to frame what the purpose of feedback is, because it really has to answer 3 questions. And if we don't answer these 3 questions correctly, our feedback will never be as effective as possible. Number 1, we feed up. And that means going straight to the task of what was the goal. So what was the task? What was the goal? Try to convince someone else. And then, well, how did things go? I actually was taking you through a feedback process, feedback loop, in this whole process. So I asked you, how are things going? And I'm not sure if everybody found their gap, if you think about it. You might have been observing, reflecting, thinking, but did you actually open up a gap? And that's the last one. It's about the feed forward process. So it's a feed up, feedback, feed forward. Is that if we are mature enough to open up a gap, then what is the next step? What do we do next? What is that plan? And that's how we get better at giving feedback. I think this is a wonderful symbol here that talks about the art of feedback, which uses all the senses. Empathy is a big one that comes. What's another word that comes to mind when you see those 5 senses used there? What does it mean to you, that little symbol? Presence, being present in the communication, right? Let me tell you this. There is, if you don't already know, there is this model called the Behavior Change Stairway Model, and it was designed by the FBI hostage negotiation team. I'll be honest, this is being used in coach education worldwide. And it is something that if we can get right, if we can teach others to get it right, it is the art of feedback. And this is what I really want to share with you today. And it's something that I think is important for you, and it's very important for me as well in my development. So when we take a look at the art of feedback, do you want to see it in action? Do you want to see how it plays out a little bit? So maybe we'll go, well, we'll do with Hagen. Let's do Hagen, because Luke has spoken quite a bit. So Hagen, come on up here. Yeah, have a seat. Have a seat. So it kind of goes like this. And let's just watch this in the 3 steps and how this is a very quick illustration. So feed up. Not feed up, but feed up. All right. So what was your goal? What was it, if you don't mind reiterating, what was the task?
To convince someone that what I saw was correct.
Terrific. And so how did that go for you, Hagen?
Well, it went pretty well once I teamed up with Luca.
Okay. Good. And so what did you find that there was any tension in the conversation at times when you're trying to go through the task?
I mean, as you said, our interaction was a little bit on the toxic side. So, the people we engaged were less willing to take the feedback, I guess, that we were giving them, because it was given in a way that was, more direct and not really taking into consideration what they saw.
Okay, wonderful. Did you notice anything in your emotions as you were doing that, as you're interacting with your partner, Luca, in trying to convince Emad? And how did you feel in that sort of relationship? Because I know you've known Emad for a long time. So how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to sort of give them a little bit of a chance to see what they were seeing, but they, you know, in the way that we were providing our feedback, they weren't really given a chance to do that. So I was a little bit, apprehensive to go further.
Fair enough. What if I told you, like I've been in this situation before as well. What if I told you that research shows that the way the brain works over time, both answers are actually correct, because the way the brain sees shades is the way that they'll see the actual color. So in knowing that new information, and you're going to have a new conversation with Emad, how would you change that approach?
Yeah, I guess I'd just be more open to what he has to say, knowing that, what I'm seeing isn't necessarily what he's seeing, and that sometimes, one answer isn't always the correct answer. We can all see different things, but potentially be correct.
Let me ask you a more specific question. Luca mentioned that majority of the conversation was 90% and then 10%. You'd agree? How would you begin the conversation in that case to balance off the communication balance between you and Emad? What would you change differently if you could do that again?
Yeah, I guess I'd share what we saw and then ask what they saw and see if we can try and figure out a way that maybe we can agree that maybe it's yellow and blue or something. At the end of the day, find a compromise or find some sort of shared vision that we can take forward together.
So the next, I mean, we both are probably going to get in some sort of conflict resolution situations in the future, but if you ever need help, and it may be going through this little quick exercise, next time you have a situation like that, please feel free to contact me, and if you want, I'd be happy to walk you through, and I think that's the best way we can improve our feedback. Does that sound like a plan?
That's very kind of you.
All right, high five. Good. Now, before we give him a hand, what were your observations of that little exercise right there? What was powerful about that? Okay, we were calm. What else? Two-sided conversation. I did a great job of active listening. Did anybody time me on how much I was talking in comparison to how much Connor was or Hagen was talking? What do you perceive? Did he speak more than 50%? About 50%? Yeah, okay. Did you find a journey that was purposeful? Okay, we'll get to him and see what he thought about it, but correct, yes. Okay, facilitating by asking more questions. Yes, yes? Yeah, it was a very simple framework that I stuck to, that I knew I was going to get to the goal. So let's ask the participant about how did you feel about how I conducted that? Did you feel at all I was judgmental in any of this? Even though I had the solution, to be fair. I had it in my back pocket. But I want to hear from you about what was your thoughts about this, and do you think it was effective in the end to come to a conclusion of behavioral change?
Yeah, I definitely think it was effective. At no point did I feel that you were telling me the answer. At no point did I feel that you were trying to get me to say one specific thing. I thought everything that I said you took and sort of tried to steer me, I guess, a little bit in the end. And everything we've kind of talked about since has kind of indicated that where we arrived in the end was where you intended it to go, but through a framework that made me feel heard, essentially. Like you said, we were both talking. It wasn't you talking down to me. It wasn't me talking down to you. It was sort of a level playing field, but ultimately it was you giving the feedback and you guided me to where I wanted to go, but it felt to me like I was the one almost steering the conversation.
My last question to all of you who are my club development officers. Do you think there was some, in this 2 minutes, was there some behavioral change here going on? Right? And definitely that this coach, this referee, or whoever this staff member is, definitely is going to be more self-reflective moving forward. So anyways, give Hagen a hand. Thank you very much. Hold on, buddy. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. And to be honest, I think you can use this approach for anytime you're doing any assessments, progress reports, or discussions with any of your coaches, players, and referees would be a nice framework just for you to consider. Because a couple of things is this. It's about what you said there, Ralph, earlier about perspectives. You nailed it, and I think, Mark, you were alluding to that as well, because that's where the magic happens, right? We might not be able to move that needle forward too much, and we might need just to take baby steps. But if we can understand each other's perspective, we will move that needle together. And I always like to use a play on words, but in unity, we have community. Any questions on the art of feedback? And did you enjoy that at all? Yeah? Okay, so I'll give you the answer. The way I see it, it was white and gold. It's because I'm right. Now you have to facilitate me and give me feedback on that. But the information that I did share with Hagen is true, that the mind develops in a way and it sees things in light and shade, light and dark. So that's why we all see it differently. This photo was taken in a mall through a window, and the material itself, the color itself, was black and blue. So it's interesting that how the mind works and how we all see things differently. But before we move on to stats and facts, what's the big takeaway on that little exercise that we just did? What's your takeaway? Maybe something you can share with somebody in conversation. What's your big aha on that one? Yes. Wonderful. Yes, Luca.
I think we can all see things differently. At the end of the day, with the dress, right? You can all do that. Like the game of soccer. In a day, it's a game. You may want to play a different way. I may want to play a different way. At the end of the day, it's soccer. So we all can see things differently about or address.
Yeah, it's understanding each other's perspective and really pulling in the same direction and having patience with one another, right? Anyway, so hopefully you enjoy that. I always try to work on myself as well, so this was a presentation for myself as much as it was for everybody, and thanks for participating in it. I want to go through a couple of updates on just referee, coach, and player. I looked at this website here, and I brought up some stats really to bring out and appreciate. There's been a focus on referee development and the appreciation of the retention of referees. And I just want to bring up a few stats where, just at the highest level, what is the stuff that referees do? And it's pretty incredible. That 245 main key decisions are made in a 90-minute game. That's 3 times more than an average player touches the ball. I've never seen that stat before. Key decisions are made every so often. And 45 of them are technical, while most of them are judging physical contact. But here's the strange one that I didn't quite understand, is that 35 of those are visible decisions, and majority of them are non-visible, meaning that they need to make split-second decisions on when they just got to let the play go. And I think sometimes that's even more difficult to judge than when there's an actual foul. So for me, a lot of respect for referees in that regard. The highest level, or even provincial level, let's bring it to our context. They cover well over 10 kilometers in a 90-minute game. in an 11v11 environment. And here in BC, on average, it takes you, if you're very pursuant in this, about 10 years to achieve the national level. We have over 4,000 active referees currently at different levels, and we're working to push, encourage, and train those referees to get into higher levels, while we have a couple at the national and FIFA level. 75% of those are male, 25% are female. It's approximately the same ratio with coaches taking coaching courses. Primarily, we've found, and this is the research done through Hagen in our coaching department, majority of the participation is really done in the love of the game. And the one thing that probably helps the most is thriving community. What do you think thriving in community might mean? How do you get along with your family? How do you get along with your friends? It's kind of the same thing, that referees need ongoing development. Coaches need ongoing development. Players need ongoing development. Moving from a small-sided course or entry-level course and then taking a refresher down the road, that's important, very important. But what is even more important, what is happening in between? So there's some research that has been done by different organizations, but I want to support our Canadian research through the Ontario Soccer Association. And this is what stuck out for me in that document, is that there's a lack of consistent strategies to retain and through education help the referees. So our technical service plan, I think, has been really progressive in offering that. Majority of our instructors across the province already have this information that can do little workshops covering different type of items that referees can gain and thrive in that type of educational environment and community. And if clubs out there, if you don't have somebody, if you don't have an in-club instructor, we'll get you one. The question is, how much can you commit to that? Because our young coaches need it. Our more experienced referees need it. So we also have resources available, and it's not just in the referee technical service plan, but also in the coach and player resources that are completely free for our membership, and encourage you to use it if you don't have something substantial, enhance what you already have, or cross-check it and make it even better for yourself. Another research that came out with Dr. Tracy Vinecourt, who's also from Ontario, did a research with the 3 provinces with the following statistics regarding abuse. And I found this quote very interesting, that this is what referees often feel like. They feel like they're on a boat without oars, because half of the fans, they love the one team, half of them love the other, no one loves the referee. And that's a shame, and we somehow need to improve that environment. I can give you information on what FIFA is doing in relation to empowering referees and abuse, specifically with discrimination. They've just passed a global stance against racism in order to make our game stronger and make it even more welcoming. If you go on the FIFA website, there's a campaign. It's a 2-minute video that explains where this originated from and where FIFA wants every member organization to adopt this. Canada Soccer is in the process of creating some guidelines and training on how this is going to be implemented across the country. I know our referee development department has already been proactive about creating some guidelines for our membership. Over to player development. Another research that you may have seen through the Canadian Women in Sport was an investigation on the boys and girls and the dropout rates. And we all know that the dropout rates occur for both boys and girls, but specifically for young girls. 1 out of 3 report the following factors preventing them from participating in sport. What do you think some of those factors might be? What do you see in your clubs where young girls struggle with maybe staying in the game? What could be some of the reasons? Yes, yes. Okay, social reasons, okay? Okay. Anything else? Because if we don't know the answers to this, then how can we be proactive in our clubs to change that graph? Low confidence through adolescent ages as they're trying to mature. This also comes with a negative body image, and potentially because maybe they don't have so many training sessions, they have not been able to build a capacity for skill. And that also adds and has the domino effect for low confidence. As you mentioned, not feeling welcomed, and integration, and that just rolls. It's just a cycle of negative emotions for girls. So I'm not going to ask you for solutions right now, and maybe you've thought of this, but I think it's something that we all need to go back and think about. What are we doing, or what aren't we doing in order to do that? What I can share is we've joined in partnership with BMO and introduced the BMO Girls Play BC. What it is, we've actually, Lucas, how many did we roll out this year so far? 4 camps, if we recall. We did one on the island. We did. Okay, so we've covered the island, one in the north and northern area, in Thompson, Okanagan, and in the mainland. It's really an innovative girls soccer activation leadership day where it's focused on young girls playing at the 6, 7, 9-year-old age groups, and also involving girls within the club. Kind of in that, where you saw that graph on that last slide of where there's that dropout. So can girls in the 15, 16-year-old age group, encourage and mentor, be good role models for the young girls, and hopefully this trend, it will have that cycle, but a positive cycle. Some of the benefits of this is any club can apply for this. We just rolled this out in the fall, and 4 clubs took advantage of it, and we encourage many clubs to take advantage of it. You get funding to do this. You get your coaches trained and certified at the grassroots level. They get practical experience from mentors. Yasmin, our female lead in our soccer development, had led this in the BMO camps before, and it was very positive. And she is a mentor now to teenage girls who can be mentored to young girls, and you can see what that domino effect can do. This is free to clubs, and you can take advantage of it. If you don't have a program for female initiative, this is it, and just take advantage of it, because the toolbox is right there, and you get some BMO swag out of it, which is always a bonus. We also have partnered with Canada Soccer and the Tell Us She Can coach. This is aimed more at clubs who are interested in mentorship with women and young women in coaching that have no experience. And this is another thing you just need to sign up for that there is funding for. And there's an annual application process. If you have any questions on this, Yaz and Lucas will be able to help you out on this one. But once again, it's just another partnership idea that we've gained for the benefit of clubs if you don't have a program like that already. Soccer in schools, a number of clubs are involved in this, but this is another great opportunity for club engagement with schools. If you don't know what soccer in schools are, in a general summary, it's you get funding to go into your school district or school-specific area, and your technical staff can train the teachers to do soccer, to teach soccer. And what do you think the return is in that is for you as a club? Kids are going to join your club. So it's this club engagement that is a fantastic opportunity if you want to make that connection. And on a more larger scale, you're having a lot of impact in the game, not just in your club, but outside of your club, in the schools, where sometimes they don't receive the type of quality sport education that many parents complain about. You can do it. You can do a good job and help mentor the teachers. In coach development, when we take a look at the pathway in addition to BC Soccer delivering the grassroots stream and the C diploma, we also run bite-sized pieces, workshop diplomas, the goalkeeping, technical director accessibility workshop. I'm really proud to say that we're going to introduce a new futsal. Finally, after many years, it was really time to get after it and develop a workshop and introduce futsal as a development tool to the outdoor game, and give another opportunity for non-traditional format type of soccer. So I'm really enthused to. It's in the works, and we're looking to roll that out in 2025. About a year and a half ago, the former C license course had come to an end and was upgraded by Canada Soccer to what's called the new CONCACAF C diploma course, and I'll touch on that in just one moment. But one last thing that I think clubs can take advantage of in regards to coach education is about 2 months ago we lowered the registration age for the Active Start Fundamentals to 14. It was 16, and we felt that this would complement the support for that age gap, that research that was made about why young girls drop out. And so I just want coaching to take a part in that. And so what is the solution and what is the recommendation for clubs? Is don't send the kids into an adult learning environment. Is take your teams and create some youth-only grassroots courses at Active Start and Fundamentals. It's just so logical, and the kids will have a ton of fun. And perhaps what they learn in the coaching has two benefits. They either take it to themselves, they become better players, or they can help you in your TOTS programs as volunteers. And they give back to their community, they give back to your club, and this also promotes wellness, as you know. So in my comment is just try to inspire the next gen of coaches with those who are still playing. And it's just not the 14-year-olds, it's all the teenagers that you have. You know, maybe it's a great idea at the U18 level when they're ready to graduate to adults, is just give them a course, give them an Active Start course as a present as they go out. And hopefully you inspire out of a team of 18, maybe 5 will become coaches one day. Wonderful. I did a statistic here back in 2022. I looked back for 10 years when the Canada Soccer long-term player development courses came out in 2012. There wasn't much uptake. I'm going to give you a quick little story on what happened there. 2013, I was asked, well, you know, what do you think about coach certification? I said, well, I think it should be required at minimum for head coaches. Great, so I was sent on a campaign to do that. And I remember one analogy that I used was, because I knew that mandatory and requirement, this wasn't a word back in 2013. It wasn't even a word that people were using. And I just used this analogy, and I used photos with, you know, if you have a child that is playing piano, like, would you ever send them for piano lessons with someone who never even played piano before? Never. Like, no one would do that. So why do we do it in soccer? It sort of became the mantra, and the mantra actually that I created out of this, and you may have heard of this before, but is that every player deserves a trained coach. Doesn't every coach deserve to be trained? Actually is the question. Moving forward, the board, the BC Soccer board, ended up campaigning this in 2014. It got unanimously approved at the AGM in 2014. Gave us a 2-year window in 2016 when it came into play. And as you can see there, the spike of certifications that came into play. And we have been able to sustain this even through COVID, even when we had to stop going on field. But there was a big boost in online training when that had to be a component of it. And so we are in great shape, and I have to say it's thanks to all the organizations that are taking part and committing to grassroots development, because those numbers are your numbers. You've done it. Because who is BC Soccer? We're all BC Soccer. And we did that together. It wouldn't have been possible without the number of clubs. Approximately 60% of the clubs have committed to what's called the In-Club Learning Facilitator Program. I still think this is an extremely low number. I'm not leaving this job until every club in BC has an in-club learning facilitator. I'm a coach development manager. I want someone who has the responsibilities, like myself, in each of the club, and you only have to answer 2 questions. Is there someone responsible for the development of our coaches? Yes or no? Do we have someone who's an in-club learning facilitator? It sounds like a pretty good idea, and it's a simple one. If you don't, it's an easy process. Not anybody can become a learning facilitator. But Lucas, if you're Club FC and you've hired Yasmin as your technical lead, that's who you've contracted as your technical lead, and you feel this person is the one who's capable, who am I to say, I can't train you? We'll give you the opportunity. That's what our values and accessibility is all about at BC Soccer. We have just a C diploma certification level, which is quite accessible. A level higher than grassroots, because coach educators need to have a higher level of certification and experience. And the training is accessible anywhere in BC online. I don't care what town the clubs are in, this is an accessible program. And if you haven't, or if you know of clubs that haven't taken advantage of this, please spread the word. That's all I'm asking. Because that's all we're doing is enabling clubs to train and develop their coaches in-house. It's the way to go. Does that make sense? It's pretty logical stuff. Last one. What we're seeing is a competency gap between the grassroots and the C diploma, a big one. And I'm just being right up front. Maybe some of the reasons are that there is no prerequisite to get into the C diploma. 100% get it. 100% get it. But I think what's happening is if we had more club mentorship happening, then the coaches who are coming in there be much more well equipped. And I'm going to give you a couple of stats in a moment. I mentioned about the new CONCACAF C diploma course. We just rolled this one out starting in August, and it's a 10-month program. It's going to end in next June. It's made up of online work, independent work. It's 2 blocks of 3 days in person. And what you see there in the middle, the third one from the right, is a development period. And this is a requirement by CONCACAF, and I think it's a very intelligent one, where we have reality-based training after you come and learn a little bit. You got to go practice it. You're going to come learn a little bit more, and then you're going to get evaluated finally. It's the first time in the coach's pathway that coaches get formally evaluated. And if we don't do this right, we're not setting them up for success. This process here is a responsibility of Canada Soccer and BC Soccer to make sure that we space enough development period out there. But who do you think could also add to the success of this? Is in-club mentorship, 100%. I'll tell you why. Some of the learnings from the former process of the C license, 2016 to 23, we took a look at, and again, you see the stats that I mentioned in refereeing, approximately 80-20% split of those who take the advanced coach education program. Of those who don't complete it, who drop out, or unsuccessful in their evaluation, we only have a 60% success rate. That's not good enough. So mentorship for me is critical. Well, let's talk a little bit about coach mentorship. Over the last 4 years, we committed funds, time, and mentors to run a coach mentorship program. We've put nearly 100 coaches through over the last 4 years. 65% are female, adding to our mandate about helping women in coaching advance their careers and advance opportunities. We prioritize women in coaching, as I mentioned, and Indigenous coaches. And to remove financial barriers, we offered free enrollment to the C license. I think we've done our job for 4 years, and now I think we need to take a look at the next step. Because what we saw, the stats show this, that with a mentor in this process, we saw a more than 20% increase in success rates for those who converted their training into evaluation. That's huge. Because it's not easy to pass, and not everyone should pass. People should pass on competency. But we felt that mentorship played a very big role in that. So then, for me, the question is, can we have more impact than what we're doing? If we average 20 coaches a year, if we only take 5 clubs in 5 regions with 20 coaches, over 4 years that we've done, that's like 2,000 coaches. Way more impact than what what we're doing in our backyard. So we're asking the clubs to take part in this. So how can we help? The enhancement of the coach mentorship program must go to more regional based and in club based, and the rollout of this will be mentor training and creating a mentor toolkit, similar to the LF program, right? It's a toolkit to give to a club who doesn't have an in-club learning facility. There's a toolkit. That's what I'm going to do. I roll it out with my coaches, and this is the idea. That's my last slide on this one. I just want to see, what do you think about some of these thoughts? Yes? Well, there's the three reasons. The unsuccessful at the evaluation. They are, yes, that's correct. Unsuccessful in the on-field evaluation. They don't follow through on that, or there's dropout. So I've accounted for all of that. What I can tell you, and I didn't want this to skew here, and this is a very, very conservative increase. Because if I told you because this considers dropouts. We had dropouts. There's nothing I can do about that. If somebody wants to drop out, there's only so much you can do. But what I can tell you, of those who stayed in the program, that's a much higher percentage than that. I just didn't want to show a 95% success rate. I just want to show what's real and what's accurate. Those are the facts, because you must consider those who drop out. But of those who were mentored, the success rate was much higher. Yasmin, you know very well, because you're a part of this program. Would you agree? Yeah. And it's not easy for Yasmin to mentor. She needs to be a good communicator. She needs to give great feedback. Going back to the very first technical reflection, she needs to be a great reflector and a great communicator in order to do that, to help someone cross that line. And she's not going to do it for them. She's going to help them do it. Okay? Anyway, now I'm starting to get passionate when I talk about coaching. All right. I think we're still on time. Just to wrap up on this one, I want us to have a little bit of fun. All right? And we're going to end here on club development. And you're probably wondering why. I really appreciate Luca for bringing in the net and the soccer ball. Hopefully you all scored on your way in. Otherwise, you would have to go out and try it again. I did not score. Okay. You were offside. Okay, no problem. But let's end on club development. If you're wondering why I did that, I'm using it as an analogy of our soccer ecosystem. Think of that table over there as the pitch that we train on every day. Think about there's youth players who develop by practicing playing the game. There are coaches who help the players develop. And then what do you think the referees do? They get taught by instructors, and they learn how to officiate the game. They learn about the game. That's our ecosystem. So what I'd like is 6 volunteers to go stand around the table and just put on the pennies if you don't mind. We'll have fun with this one, I guarantee it. All right. Whoever fancies themselves to be a player, put on the orange. Anybody fancies themselves to be a green, a coach. Blue, a referee. No prior experience required. Two referees, okay. We need another coach and 2 players. Okay, so everybody listen up, put on the pennies. This is fun. We're going to need 1 more green. Jen, come on.
We need more females.
There you go. Sorry, too late.
Ladies.
Come on. Okay. So everybody just listen up here. What I've termed this is the 2024 Provincial Cup of Coin Soccer. And this is the way it works. I'm really good at this, by the way. Look at that. All right. So, Emad, I know you're a referee as well, right? So there has to be rules of the game, right? The laws of the game, and here they are. Okay, so pay attention. There's 3 touch. There's no tackling. So if a coin hits another coin, you got to give the coins over to the opposition, and then now it's their turn to attack. We're going to have goal line technology on this one. So if it doesn't hit the back of the finger, it's no goal. And we always talk about in our policies about goalpost safety. So if anybody's cheating and the goals start to shrink so the opposition can't score, well, it's definitely a penalty shot. Okay, so referees, and so who's the instructor, who's the referee? You tell me.
Get on with it, son.
Okay, so we got the instructor and the referee. So we all play in our roles, and this is the way it's going to work. There's going to be a 3-minute training camp. The coach is going to work with the player. Coach is going to work with the player. Coach is going to work with the player. And the referee is going to work with the instructor for 3 minutes because the final is going to come. They're going to play a 1-minute final. The two players will play against each other in the final to see who's the winner at the end, after the training camp. All right. So what's missing in this picture is the club development officers, which all of you are. So I'm going to name you off. Coach, player, ref. Coach, player, ref. Coach, player, ref. Coach. All right. So if you're a coach, come and stand in behind the greens. If you're a player, club development officer, in behind the orange, and then you know what to do for a referee. Go stand behind the blue. All right. So here's your task. You're going to watch the 3-minute practice. You're going to watch the 1-minute final. We're going to have some fun. But this is what I want you to think about. You're only watching your group. You're watching what the experience was like and what was the performance like. That's what you're going to reflect on and provide observations at the very end. Those are the rules. You have 3 minutes. Go. Work with your coach. Great, and we'll wrap it up here in about 5 seconds. And time. Okay, so now if I can get you, Mark, on the other side. Okay. Now, you can stay on the sidelines. Make sure you stay in the technical area. You stay in your technical area. No, in your technical area. You can support your coach from the bench. Not a problem. And now the referee will have to take charge of this because the game is going to begin. And you got 1 minute. The game starts now. He's given the black card. So, who was the winner, referee?
Pardon me?
Who is the winner? Mark? There's two Marks.
I'm gonna call it a tie. I think there was some, I don't think it started off properly, there wasn't any listening on my round.
Okay, but we agreed that Mark won 1-0, correct? Yeah. Or you won 1. Okay, so congratulations, you're the winner. All right, give Mark a hand. So, let's talk a little bit about this. For the players, you can go back to your area here and coach on the other side, Jen. Okay, so if this was the player club development officers, what did you observe? What was the experience like of the players that you observed in the training and the final? Okay. What else was important to you as you're observing? Okay. Let me ask you, how much of the time was spent the player practicing versus the coach demonstrating? Did you notice? Or players, you can comment as well. How did you feel about that? Okay, but you're my club development officers. What did you think?
It was split. So on this side, little instruction, lots of practice. On that side, took a little bit more time.
Okay, so what's the takeaway if we put this into reality? Is that maybe we don't have consistency in our DTE, our daily training environment, right? What about from the referee perspective? How did they get along? What were your observations on their performance? Let's go straight up to performance. Is usually how referees. Okay. Oh no, just be honest. Go ahead. What was the issue? Okay, so here's another thing. A club may not be clear on maybe standards and rules and policies. That's the takeaway. That's the analogy I'm trying to use. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Now, what about the coach? What were the observations here? What did you notice about their approach? Was it different?
I thought their approach was very similar. They all needed to talk to the players, probably explain their understanding, and they had a little bit of discussion, and then they allowed the players to practice.
Okay, and do you agree with that? In your club FC, do you think that's a good approach is how he observed it? Anybody disagree in your club? Would you do that? Would you expect your coaches to do it a little bit differently? And why? It's funny when we get into little games like this, how we all want to take quick control. And I'm not saying what you're teaching was wrong in here, but this is just a consideration for everybody. What would happen if we said, Mark, you know the rules, can you just give it a try for a little bit? What would that give you? What information would that give you?
Yeah, just the
A starting point.
prior knowledge.
Right? But what do we often do? We just get in there, let me show you, right? And then how would that make you feel?
Well, given the time constraints, I thought that was effective, but
Okay.
if it was like a longer session, just get into play. Right?
Okay. So this is another fantastic reflection because it comes down to how we communicate with our players, coaches, and referees. Sometimes we just need to tell them, so command, sometimes Q&A, guided discovery, and so forth. So it's really interesting. Let me just ask you one last question, and anybody in any of the three departments can share. How did you measure success, other than Mark being the champ? How would you measure success?
How well he learned to play the game, because that was clearly his first time playing, so
Okay.
did he enjoy it? Sorry, I'm not saying you're not the coin ball champion.
What else did you notice? Okay, let me ask you a better question. What was not going so well? Okay.
I was just taking advantage of not setting like very clear rules in advance. So I just try to just use that in my advantage. So maybe if in clubs we don't set like the rules and regulations, maybe there are some opportunities people that they're gonna take advantage of it, and then just makes the things harder for referees or the ones who's like watching the rules.
I don't know what we think. Here's my first question that I would ask. Are you a coin soccer? Do you have coin soccer certification by BC Soccer by chance?
No,
Not yet, right?
no,
Okay. So that might be one. I don't see a mentor that is helping the coach with some of the reflections that we came through, which is something we've talked about. It's just a silly little exercise that sort of helps us gain some insight of what are we doing in our clubs, or how do we actually observe this game, and which means how do we observe it over there, okay? So then the question is, what action are you going to take next in your clubs? I don't know, but hopefully this exercise helped and it was fun. Okay, let's have a seat, and we'll wrap up. So hopefully we've had a little bit of fun. We're just going to wrap up here. And in any area of coach, player, referee, in club development, we have to take a look at our current practices, take a look at what that standard is. I'm not saying the standard, also being realistic about what is our capacity. And if we don't have capacity, maybe rules and regulations is not the problem. Maybe the problem is trying to build some capacity to help reach those standards. And that's the puzzle I think we all need to figure out. I want to share 3 things from an academic perspective, just in closing. I don't want to get too deep, but if there's anything that I want to share today on the various reflections we have, I think it would be this one that I think would help you and me. We often approach everything from a pedagogical perspective. I think Yasmin reflected and said, I went straight to that. Right? There might have been some rationale because there wasn't a lot of time. Fair enough. Andragogy. This is based on adult learning principles, and it's exactly what I've been doing with you for the last hour. I haven't told you what to do, but I've asked you to reflect on your own environments, and hopefully I've done that as well as I could. It's a new word I looked up, and I love it. Does anybody know what this is? Skill testing question. In short, it's the next level of andragogy. It's lifelong learning and being a very good self-reflector. And I think it ties into the little exercise that Hagen and I did about giving feedback. Because I could have given feedback very, very directly because I had the answer in my back pocket. And I was self-reflective enough to know that that would damage him and we really wouldn't be that effective. And I think at the end of the day in football, this is seriously leadership 101, if we get this right. And this starts from Canada Soccer, it starts from us as the PSOs, and it goes right down to the local level. And I'm not preaching this, I'm just saying that if you think I've convinced you that this is a good way to go, then I think that would be my takeaway. And I want to become a better self-reflector. Because I tell you what, if I'm a bad self-reflector, good luck telling Yasmin what she should do in her football development. There's no chance, because I'll never teach her how to be a great self-reflector, and then I've failed her. Just an exercise in the last minute. Yaz is going to hand out a couple of worksheets, and all I want you to do is just to circle one area in your organization, coach, referee, or player, whatever one that's right now sticking in your mind, and just reflect on the 3 questions, and just in a couple of words, write that down. I won't be collecting these. This is simply for you. But I think if we're going to talk about pedagogy and self-reflection, then I think we need to practice it. And this is just a quick little exercise, just 1 minute. Write down what you think, if you don't mind. And then we're close to the end here. And if you're here with someone in your club, please work together. You can work off of one worksheet as well. It doesn't have to be all 3 domains, just one of the domains is fine. Great, we'll just give you 30 seconds just to wrap it up, and we'll go to the final slide. Okay, let's wrap it up. So maybe when you're reflecting next time with your staff, or what's one really good thing that your club does well, maybe this is just one other way that you want to brainstorm with them. And I'll just leave you with this last short clip about being curious and non-judgmental. And I think that's been the highlight of what we've been trying to do. I hope you enjoyed. Did you enjoy it? Thumbs up? Give yourselves a hand. Thank you very much. I'll invite you, if you want to stay a few minutes, the staff have their laptops open. If you have specific questions in any of the areas or any questions you may have, you're welcome to do that. I really appreciate all your attention, and thanks for your interaction. I had a ton of fun with you as well. Thank you.